going on?
Are we going on?
Yep, there we go.
Hello and welcome to the Torch Snuffers podcast. I am your host for the evening, Alicia Garza. With me is a group of fantastic panelists, including the illustrious Elise.
Hello.
The always knowledgeable and up on his shit, Alex Cash.
Hey.
The ever encyclopedia, Stephen Lehman.
Thank you, Alicia.
The very intimidating and often somber but secretly softy, Ty.
Good evening.
Who's now going to murder me because I said that. And the wonderful, positive, precious Ben Mealy.
Hi, friends.
Hi. Colin couldn't join us today, so I have taken control, much like Nick has kind of taken control of the game a little bit, I think. But we will get into all of that very shortly. So, the first thing we see in the episode is a little, bitching about the vote, but that kind of was expected, so who really cares about that? The more exciting thing that happens is that Sydney and Jason spy a little bulge in Neil's pocket, and it's not because he's happy to see them, it's because he probably has the idol inside. So, what does that, I guess it's even pointless to be like, what does that mean for the rest of his game? Because as we saw, sadly, he was medevaced. And that was pretty reminiscent of Survivor One World, right? Where Colton just leaves the game.
Yeah, he died on the ground with his idol.
Also in his pocket. Yeah, I guess I'm getting a little ahead of myself, though, so we'll dial it back. It is the Merge episode, and we are so excited. Steven was messaging in our group meet earlier and was talking about his super excitement for the Merge. Has this Merge lived up to your hype and expectations?
The Merge, the dynamics in the Merge itself, yes. The outcome of the episode, no, because I think it's very hard to sort of end the Merge episode with, a medevac, like we had in Token Chains with Joe just unceremoniously being this game is cool, but it's not that cool when he gets medevac for his knee. That was his exact quote. But, yeah, I thought the Merge dynamic itself was good, but the outcome was not as good. It was a little underwhelming.
Mm-hmm. And was Token Chains, did someone actually get medevaced at the Merge, or was this the first time that... Okay, I knew my historians would know. So... yeah, but amongst the characters that made it to Merge, we have Debbie making it to the Merge, possibly to the surprise but super excitement of all of us, or most of us. Is everyone here excited? Can we, say blanketly that we're excited Debbie made it?
Yes.
She also made it to jury.
Thank the Lord.
I was excited.
Yes, our part-time waitress, diva, pilot, scientist, chemist, water
Model.
extraordinaire. Model. Oh my gosh, let's not forget. Model has made it to the Merge and has immediately started rubbing people the wrong way. Ty, do you want to go ahead and talk a little bit about that, about Debbie's unsavviness?
Well, I mean, it's been kind of hinted at over the last several rounds that she was possibly in, playing up her great position more than she actually was. When she was, over-the-toply swinging in the tree, talking about how she was completely running the game, I kind of had the inkling that maybe, just maybe, was hubris, and that she did not actually have that control. I mean, I think that people do like her. I think it came out tonight that Michelle does like her, and I don't think she'll necessarily be targeted yet because she's so over the top. People are not looking at her as a serious threat at this point. But she's not winning. It is absolutely positively clear that her chances are that she can help somebody else win, like Aubrey or Sydney or Michelle. Those are all viable options. I definitely think a woman ends up winning this.
Ladies Alliance we discussed.
I wish.
Deb does want a lady to win. She's done that numerous times.
Yeah. All right. Does anyone else want to chime in?
Yeah, I did sort of a glorified power rankings on the Torch Snuffers website last night, and I ranked Debbie, I believe, third, precisely because I think she's destined for third place.
Okay.
Or
And
second.
that's what?
Like she has the skills to get to the end, but she does not have the skills to win.
And that makes a lot of sense, for sure. She definitely cannot really woo people or sway them to her side. You saw her being like, "Rrr," and Nick was like, no. Please, do you want to talk about Nick's fantastic reaction to that?
Well, I think that, I don't know, Nick had a very interesting episode. Like, we haven't seen that much of him up until this point. And I was surprised to see that, because we saw last episode he and Debbie were really getting along, and now he's like, no, she's too much. So, sucks for Debbie. But
yeah, I know. He had so much airtime, and I was kind of worried that he was going to go home, but I guess he's kind of filling in. Like, Peter was kind of our narrator for the pre-merger, one of them, and now that he's gone, Nick seems to have stepped right up into his place and kind of done a much better, more strategic job, which is really exciting to see.
I agree. I think part of it is just because, well, it'll be interesting to see if that's just this episode because he was kind of in the swing vote position, or if it'll be consistent throughout the rest of the season.
Absolutely. Another player who was definitely covering her strategic bases this episode was Aubrey. We saw her go up to Debbie and kind of be like, hey, you know, I'm sorry, like, shit hit the fan, like, that's why Pete had to go. And it hadn't even occurred to me that, like, this, obviously she was going to be viewed as someone who could maybe have betrayed the Brains Alliance, but the fact that she was smoothing things over I thought was really awesome. Ben, do you want to speak to the importance of maybe, you know, covering all your shit?
In general?
Yeah.
I have been so back and forth about Aubrey this season. Like, I've consistently liked her as a person, but, like, every episode was an ebb and flow for her in terms of, like, how she's, like, being portrayed. But I feel like they just set her up for a big underdog story. And that's something I'm really excited to see. Who just at me?
No, that was my phone. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I agree. Especially
I was like, who actually disagrees with that? I feel like that's like an opinion that most people.
That is the opinion to have without question.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unless you're Stephen Lehman, in which case you just love Aubrey to death and fuck the rest of it.
Okay.
Yep.
Exactly. Our resident Aubrey cheerleader, Stephen. So do we all think that maybe Aubrey has like some legs in the game, even though right now she seems kind of down and out?
She seems to be the only one that had focus on her. Like, she had more focus on her about the Neil incident than Neil did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. I think she's definitely gonna navigate her way through the game, hopefully, and we'll get to see more of her. I've enjoyed like the strategy that I've gotten to see out of her, so hopefully we get more. Someone who had possibly the worst non-terrible strategy of all this episode was none other than the NBA player Scott Pollard. He, I think, is the very definition now of loose lips sink ships, and I'm just so interested in seeing where this is going to go. Would anyone like to talk about him?
I just think it's interesting. Was it like 1 or 2 episodes ago? He's like, "Oh, I gotta keep the fact that Ty and Jason have the idol. I'm the only one with this knowledge. It's so great. I have to keep this to myself." And then this episode, he's telling everyone within like earshot of him, "Oh, here Neil has an idol, and Jason has an idol, and Ty has an idol, and
You get an idol. You get an idol. You get an idol."
Yeah.
Yeah, Ty, you want to jump in?
I'm so depressed because he was my winner pick because I got to pick like last, so I just picked him after episode 1. And then he was a douche because he was with Jason, and Jason is a douche, and Scott seems to absorb whoever he's around. It now makes sense that he had 2 really good, really positive episodes while he was with Ty and while Ty was his main ally. And the moment that he was like back with his douche bro alliance, he's insufferable again, and he's screwed. He's absolutely screwed. I would be surprised if Jason cuts him to save himself at some point down the road. I've been feeling like that could happen for a while. They were on the Braun trial. He's dead, and it's unfortunate. And Elisa's going to get another winner pick pass with Nick. Like, Nick might end up winning this whole thing, and I just can't believe it.
I mean, I was shocked. It's not like what he tells he tells Nick about the idol. They've known each other for how long? Like 20 minutes? They've eaten like one meal together ever in this entire game. And he's like, yo,
They
bro,
did bond
best kept
They
secret
did
of
bond
the game right now.
playing
Here you
basketball
go.
against each other.
In
Crazy.
fairness, it did make Nick and Michelle think that they're so dumb and so arrogant that they would want to side with them over the brains. So I guess it did have that effect. But
Yeah,
It's so bad.
if that was intentional, which it wasn't. That
Yeah, I was gonna say if we got a confessional of like Jason or Scott saying, we're playing up the fact that we're sort of being douchey to get these people to side with us. That's
no,
why-
they're just.
right, but
No.
they're just yeah.
They can
I pointed
say
this
that.
out as we were watching the episode. Like, even Nick thinks that Scott and Jason are, like, super douchey. Like,
Yeah.
that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Yeah.
douchey if
Um,
Nick is calling you on your shit.
Mhm.
That
One
is
thing
the
about-
that is the epitome of meta douche.
Meta
Meta
douche.
douche.
Yeah, Alex?
about Scott is that as a basketball player, he's used to being a team player, and I think part of that does involve figuring out how to gel with whatever group you're around, and he may be so good at that he wouldn't even realize he's doing.
Okay. I hadn't thought about that, but that's a
Yeah.
really great point. He might have a lot more finesse and like people reading than maybe we're giving him credit for. Maybe that's what we'll end up seeing, which would be pretty exciting. Someone who has no or little to no people reading skills that we see next is Debbie talking to Ty on the stump in the middle of probably like half the camp, right? Trying to get him in alliance with her. What
You're
on
mine
earth-
now. You are mine.
What
Yeah.
was that about?
Zip it.
What? Like, it
Mm.
was incredible. Ben, would you like to elaborate? Explain to
I
us, maybe.
didn't even really have any comment relating to that, but this episode, like, I watched The Emperor's New Groove in my classroom today with my students, and she reminds me of Yzma, like the old decrepit purple lady now. Like, there's just something that, like, I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know if it's the bumbling, like, failing of a person or if it's, like, her, like, old. I don't know what it is, but, like, she was
Oh
giving
my
me.
god, or her thinking that
Yzma
like
vibes.
everyone loves her and she's like really hot shit when maybe it's like, oh,
Does that
you got a little something in
make
your teeth and like no.
does that make Joe
Is
Kronk?
the better
Yes,
ease.
it does.
Wrong
He
level.
totally makes Joe Kronk. Oh my god, if he was in the FBI, can't you see him like up against the wall like Kronk was?
Yes.
Oh my god, that was perfect. Thank you, Ben. That was the best. Yeah. Okay, so we can all agree that maybe Survivor 101 should include a class on how to not make an alliance. Step 1, don't be surrounded by 18 people when you're trying to do it.
I feel like Debbie's alliance making was like such an org thing to do, like an online game thing, and not really an actual Survivor thing to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Elise, am I
What
to
a post in
presume?
your
Am I
confessional.
to presume?
Go ahead.
Like, Elise, am I to presume that you have in the past posted in your tribe chat who, like, X, Y, and Z align with me for serious?
I've
even though I know
seen
everyone's
people
around.
do it. I've seen people
Oh,
do it.
We are alliance.
Yes.
Day one alliance.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty typical stuff, unfortunately, sometimes. And speaking of typical stuff, and world's worst segue ever, so again, we have Jason talking about shoving geeks in lockers. This is like the second or third time he's brought that up. So I think maybe CBS is like, this is your villain, this is your asshole, like, here you go, the story is not going to change. Ben?
I'm praying to God that they're being more intentional about it, and more so than just painting him as a villain, they're also framing it so that he gets his one comeuppance from the Reigns tribe.
Ah.
The thing is, though, this could be
Like Revenge of the Nerds.
This
that a
could
movie?
be Yeah. Though this could be like Survivor Worlds Apart, where we think, oh my God, Shireen and the No Cowers are gonna beat the bullies, and they get picked off one by one by one by one.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, cause like they were so underhyping this season. Like people were like, oh, this is gonna be awesome, and Jeff was like, no, it's not really that good. That's like the only thing that makes me think, oh dear, like Scott and Jason are gonna make it super far and it's gonna be awful. Cause otherwise, I'd say they had no shot in the world. But
I can definitely agree with that. Although, how were their challenge performances today? Were they good at balancing or were they not? I can't remember now.
Beauty was top 3, which was impressive.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so we see our challenge today. It's the ever typical, we've seen it a million times. You're standing on a board, you have a ball that you're like balancing on a plank thing. I personally was really unexcited about it. Was anyone glad to see it come back, or?
I was happy Nick won, and that's about it.
I did like the ball puns. Ty's balls keep banging into each other. That's not good. And then Nick.
That was really painful. That was really painful.
So I was more excited for those challenges because of the ball puns that Jeff gives us. But the challenge itself, I mean, I was just looking down at my phone, seeing who to text, talking with my aunt. I was just like, yeah, not really feeling this.
Yeah, this is the 5th time we've seen that, and I think, honestly, the first time they did it was the best because they at least did the Mesoamerican Redemption Island patterns on the discs instead of just...
Mm-hmm.
It's a disc.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to point out, as I said in our chat, that's a fucking shitty-looking immunity necklace, okay?
Yeah, not like, aesthetically pleasing one.
It looked like something that I could make myself. Like, come on, guys. Just try harder.
Well, it's better than the Worlds Apart necklace, because that was all-time worst.
That's true.
I just thought it was really creepy. Like, there's shrunken heads, like, right next to your head. Like, I don't want, like, dead people's brains, like, inches from my own live head. I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea and be like, let's add one to the necklace.
But at least that's, like, little wooden heads. If you object to that, then you have to object to the tribal immunity guidelines. That entire season.
But yeah, it was just heads on heads on heads.
I'm just confused why you're all like...
Disney World recently, and I was on the Jungle Cruise where they have a bunch of like shrunken heads from like the cannibals. It just freaks me out. I don't know.
Like, I'm like confused why you all are questioning the small shrunken heads thing. Like, clearly you guys haven't been to Southeast Asia where you cuddle with a broken head.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
From first-hand experience, you go to bed carrying a little head in your bed.
Yeah, Ben has been all over Thailand and Southeast Asia in the areas where Survivor is so often filmed, and
I never actually slept with a broken head because the necklace is complete shit.
Okay, thank you. I was totally believing you because I'm gullible. Yeah, definitely sexual innuendo. Best part about this challenge, you could see them all like laughing and Jeff being like,
I think that's part of why Jeff does those little comments because he knows people will get a rise out of him.
Yeah. Would y'all have like lost it and like fallen because of those jokes? Because I have really bad balance, so I would have already been out by this time. But I think if not, that would have done me in.
Yeah. Like, I wouldn't have laughed at the ones that they show on TV, but he has said on like Twitter that he tries to push the envelope as much as they can, and then they take care of the bombs in the editing room. So.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Lucky for us, we get hit with the great material, so we get to see Jeff in all his glory instead of maybe in his failure, which I can't imagine because it's Jeff Probst, you know. Okay. So we get back to camp and we see that they're all kind of like painting the flag. Do we know who Dara is or why they're named Dara?
Well, I think. Well, first of all, Dara got 4th place in Pearl Islands, but the tribe name is Dara, I believe. But I think it's. I'm gonna butcher the language. I think it's Khmer for thank you, or no, not thank you. It's a word in the Khmer language.
Okay, so it's not like someone's child or someone's mom's
No.
name backward, like Malcolm.
Let me just look it up real quick to see if.
Survivor Wiki says Romanization of the Khmer word for star.
Okay.
I was really hoping it was named after the girl from Pearl Islands.
Yeah, I was all excited. I was like, Dara.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe it's one of like Kyle Jason's daughters that he talks so much about. But then I was like, that's really unfair.
He
to the
lies,
other
but he tells the truth, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out how to shoehorn that in. Well done, Stephen. Well done. Well done.
Yeah. But so then we kind of see what? Do we see we see some more strategy and some more like, who's gonna go with who, but it really unless anyone would really like to discuss it, we have no idea what's gonna happen now because of medevac, so I think it's kind of
Sorry.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, I think we knew Tribal wasn't happening because they were building up all this, who are the, Nick and Michelle gonna go with, and then they just tell us, so it's like, well, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was worried, though, when they were checking out all these multiple people. I was like, oh my god, who's it gonna be, who's it gonna be, who's it gonna be?
Mm.
Oh.
And, okay, so was there editing at play here, or did Jeff literally call, Neil last?
I'm gonna guess that had to be some editing at play. Well,
they could have
probably some
called
editing.
them up as the ones that looked the least dangerous first.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Got the private assessment.
Yeah.
Okay. I imagined it kind of like the vote ordering, like there was a strategic reason as to why everyone was getting called up the way they were. Because then, boom, last one.
They pulled everybody out front, and then who looked the worst, they then brought that person out to a clean area, which means a secluded area where they can do an editing cut.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Which, I don't know. I didn't personally enjoy this segment because it was just really gross.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But, I'm kind of used to gross stuff, so it doesn't bother me that much.
Okay.
Oh.
That's good. It was very reminiscent of when they showed, Katie's blisters, back on
toes.
Oh, God.
Blood versus Water 1. It was just kind of I don't know if I need to see this, but...
I love I think the doctor's reaction was the most understated thing ever. That is unpleasant.
Yeah.
That's
Can
what
I
he
also just say, by the way, how much I love that he's Dr. Rupert?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I was so excited when they're like, Dr. Rupert, come here, and I was half expecting Rupert Boneham to come in. Not good, Jeff!
Yeah. I
think I could plug up the wound with this giant rock.
Hey, you're gonna plug that wound with some
get a
rocks?
fishing hook and some line and sew you on up here.
Okay.
Oh my god.
We can build a hospital underground so it can flood.
Yeah, let's bring them to a nice clean area, and they head to the Ulster side.
The bogus shelter. Oh my god.
I was confused as to why Dr. Rupert wasn't wearing gloves initially to examine all these people.
Or a tie-dye shirt.
What?
Or a tie-dye shirt.
True. His fashion was a little off today. Hopefully he'll go back to the tie-dye soon. But, yeah, so all in all, a pretty exciting episode. Does anyone, before we wrap up, have any soapboxes they would like to stand on?
I still suck at picking winners. In my power rankings, out of the 3 people I put in my top 3, one of them got one confessional about seeing somebody's idol in their pocket. One of them got mad about it. And one of them totally fit in their hat. So.
I just felt really bad.
I didn't think it was bad.
Sorry. I just felt really bad for Neil. As a super, because he was talking about being a super fan, and he watched the show for so long, he finally got out there, makes it to merge, and then gets pulled from the game. I don't know about you guys, but if any of you are on Survivor and you get pulled at the merge because of a medevac, that's just the worst way to go.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
But the silver lining is he is very certain in his Ponderosa video that he'll be back for a second shot. And way
that's good for him.
Right to be.
He didn't get the thing after his medevac like Caleb did, though, where it's oh, well, he hopes to come back in the future.
Yeah, that's true.
I think Caleb is a stronger contender to return than
Yeah,
Neil
I just don't think Neil,
Yes.
for me personally, Neil was probably the brain that contributed the least. Like, Lizbot had her malfunction, Dr. Obama was Dr. Obama, Joe's a cranky old guy, Debbie is Debbie, and I'm in love with Aubrey, so yeah.
He's definitely the least character-based. Like,
Yeah.
there's not really much of a character other than that. Neil has the ability to basically strategize and has the ability to find an idol. That's
Right.
pretty much it.
I feel like unless like next season is like, oh, Philippines, the 3 people who were medevaced last season get to come back, then
Yeah, that's true. That would be kind of.
That's the new Outcast tribe, didn't you know? All Medivacs is going to be one new tribe.
No, just one season of all medevacs. So,
Die
like,
jerks.
Survivor second chances at life and Survivor. Yeah, no, I definitely felt for him. I had like a little bit of tear. It wasn't as emotional of an episode as when Caleb left, which I was like shocked by. But I think too, people's reactions were less emotional at camp, so that kind of affected.
I felt sadder for Aubrey's shitty situation than I felt bad for Neil. Like, this wasn't like a Bruce medevac where I was like legitimately upset, but in Bruce's case I was also dying of laughter because Kasaya's being Kasaya. Or this wasn't like Michael Scoop and falling into the fire, although now that I think about it, it's a bad example given what happened. Yeah, you know, but for me, like, this medevac, like, it's shitty for Neil, but like it wasn't one of those that like tore at my heart like some of the others did.
I think Neil definitely got the medevac edit where he just kind of, we don't see a whole lot of him and then he just kind of disappears, whereas Caleb had this big like hero edit in a bromance with Ty and then all of a sudden was cut short. So I felt like even in the few episodes we had with Caleb, we were far more emotionally attached to him than Neil was.
I just
Absolutely.
like, the editing just like confused me. Like, they did invest like so much energy into like Caleb's like beginning of season edit, and they just kept Neil as a wet blanket for the entire time, even with an idol.
Yeah. And maybe that's a sign of the future that they really are going to have Caleb back, and so they want us to care about him like as much as possible. So they're like pushing their own kind of agenda. And I mean, I guess like Neil gets his jury spot, so that's
really there you go.
I think Caleb was also helped because he was a former Big Brother player, so everyone wants to see how he does, and so they had to give him some edit, at least.
But the real question is, when will Rachel Riley complete the CBS training? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
No idea.
Who wants to see my hidden immunity idol?
Oh, God.
The bowl in your pants right now.
Taking tips from Debbie if she does that.
Okay, the one thing, we had a discussion about this in the group chat, and I think it might be worth discussing it on the podcast, is why didn't Neil give Aubrey his idol? Was he allowed to or not?
I do think he was allowed to, because I believe when Colton got medevac, they sort of took him aside and asked him if he wanted to give his idol to someone, and he said he wanted to give it to Jay, who was on, obviously, the other tribe, so that was allowed. But I think I guess I don't know whether or not Neil wanted it as a souvenir or what, but hopefully that'll be cleared up at some point.
Yeah, I mean, he was surrounded by everyone. I kind of thought it was more like, if everyone sees him handing Aubrey an idol, it's kind of like a kiss of death for Aubrey, because then she's standing there with an idol everyone knows about.
If he was going to give it to her, he should have, like, as he went to get his bag, like, snuck it into her bag or something, like, discreet like that. But, my first thought was, is he allowed to? Because it's like, if you get blindsided with an idol in your pocket and you're technically out of the game, you can't just hand your idol to, like, people as you're heading out the door. So
True, a medevac is a hashtag
blindsided by the medevac, but
that's definitely a hashtag blindside.
Yeah.
It's not a fun or extraordinary one.
Yeah.
I mean, Alex, I think you were talking about the Ponderosa scene that was posted tonight regarding the idol.
Yeah, well, all he said was, that was part of his Survivor journey, and that he doesn't really, he values the journey more than the destination, talking about all that. And the way he says that kind of thing, I do believe it. Like, he seems, as angry as anyone would be, but pretty chill about it. And like he just said that he looks forward to when he's 80 years old pulling out that idol and being like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah. I mean, there's something to be said for having a really cool souvenir. I don't know
Mhm.
if I was leaving the game if I'd want to give such a cool thing up, but you know.
If he
I
ever
guess I'd
comes
have to be up
back,
there.
if he ever comes back for second chances, he can be like James when he came back for Heroes vs. Villains and bring it as his luxury item.
I think Malcolm did that too, if I'm not mistaken.
Did he?
Yeah, he brought the idol that he didn't need to play.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, all of you listeners and viewers out there. And with that, we will end our session.
Yay. Bye, friends.
Bye.